What role does sales compensation play in managing sales resources?
Well, sales organizations come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. Some of them are relatively small, and some of them are large and complex. Some of them are localized in region markets, and some of them are worldwide. Most sales organizations, though, place a very high emphasis on sales compensation as a way of managing their sales talent. They think through how to compensate the salespeople so that they reward them for what's important for the company's objectives. Now, there's some competing issues here. One is the competitiveness of market rates. You have to take that into account. And also, you have to take into account the idea that the sales force needs to be motivated by these incentives. They must be realistic. Sometimes organizations will attempt to manage sales forces without sales compensation, and in fact, some people would argue that good sales management and sales compensation is cross-elastic. So it's not a predetermined requirement that a sales organization use sales compensation, but most sales organizations do. And they find it effective as a way of communicating what's important regarding the business objectives. And in fact, it acts as a communication tool, repeating over and over again to the sales force, this is what's important. Of course, as the year transcends and next year comes around, sometimes the objectives of the company have to change. And sales management takes it very seriously to update their compensation programs to reflect those new objectives. There are other types of ways of managing and holding sales reps accountable, such as reporting systems in terms of their call reports and funnel management. Also, there are other reward systems that companies use to recognize their salespeople. There are recognition programs. A lot of companies will, particularly larger companies, take an annual trip to cite the best sellers, and they'll participate in some type of reward program. There's also short-term programs known as spiffs and contests frequently, and they're popular with product managers who like to use them to get a special focus on a certain product or type of account that they're trying to get. And then finally, there's just the career progression. That's another reward system that sales organizations use, the opportunity to grow in your job and then eventually get promoted. But sales compensation is a bedrock of competency for sales executives. They know that if they measure and reward something, it will get accomplished. And as a result, they place a very high emphasis on designing and improving their sales compensation programs.
What are the major types of sales compensation system?
There's a variety of techniques in sales compensation. And one of the most important things, first of all, is to distinguish between two types of sellers. One type of seller is known as an income producer. And those would be sellers such as real estate salespeople, mortgage and origination, currency and bond traders. That type of seller is actually the business. And as a result, they get a percentage of the business. And that is known as an income producer sales incentive program. A lot of popular press would give the impression that all sales compensation is unlimited and very lucrative. And frequently, it refers to the income producers. However, income producers are elastic in the labor market. For example, if real estate sales is up, then the number of people selling real estate increases dramatically, thus on the average reducing everybody else's pay. So whereas the pay system is expressed as a percentage of revenue, income producers can benefit if they can control a large block of customers and sell their products. Sales representatives usually work for companies. Sales representatives, as the term suggests, are representing a company's product. And as such, those companies actually have a target compensation level that they establish for their sales jobs. That target compensation level is then managed. Some people will earn more than that target compensation level, and some people will earn less. Now, one of the more confounding issues that some people realize is that in income producer incentive programs, the program is fully variable to the company, the costs are. Whereas in sales representative programs, the costs to the company are not variable. This dichotomy between the two types of incentive programs creates a lot of confusion within corporations, because when it's beneficial to think of the sales reps as income producers, advocates will promote that they be paid an unlimited sum of money and consequently violate the fiduciary responsibilities as a sales representative model, which is really should be managing to a target pay. So in terms of the question, what are the different types of compensation programs? If I talk about the variable cash plans, there are two major categories: income producers, generally sometimes known as full commission people, and sales representative plans.
You've talked about unlimited or capped sales compensation systems. What's your opinion about that particular issue?
It's a good question, and it is a topic that gets a lot of play. Of course, if we're talking about income producers, you can be pretty much assured that their pay plans will be uncapped. And in fact, there should be no reservation in terms of paying large sums of money to income producers if in fact they're producing. However, the challenge becomes with sales representative, where most people have sales jobs. These would be corporations that hire their sales forces and pay them against a targeted incentive pay and have some of their employees performing less and therefore getting less than the target pay, and some performing more. But should their pay be capped? Well, it is preferential not to cap their pay. So if you actually build the mathematics and the accelerators and the slope of the incentive lines, it should be that even the best performers still will have an opportunity to earn more money, but at a decreasing opportunity, because it just becomes harder and harder. So it's preferential not to cap incentive programs. However, there are some cases in which a company will cap the incentive program, and it is not viewed positively by the sales force, but the company has no choice. For example, there might be instances in which you cannot predict large orders that might come through and pay much higher than anticipated and simply cause an overpayment to the sales force. And remember, we're always referring back to the labor market for sales representative. Of course, we would never make that statement with an income producer. So in those instances, sometimes the companies might cap the credit per order or might cap an account. But in any regard, once it's presented to the sales force, it's generally viewed negatively. But some companies have to do that in terms of protecting their people. Now, let me back off one comment. I want to mention another type of seller. There's a subcategory sales representative that works for consumer packaged goods companies. And these are representatives that are actually providing a marketing service function to the customers. And that particular population of salespeople who work with the large retailers generally are paid a target incentive, and they do have a cap. Now, that would be a widely practiced exception to the rule of uncapping.